And what's happening now? You speak out, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're an Islamophobe. You cannot say anything today without being, by the left, I might add, labeled. And if there is a problem in this country, it's the left.
Well, we're in the home stretch of a municipal election campaign here in Toronto, and there are literally signs everywhere. But one little sign in North Toronto has become somewhat of a tempest in a teapot. I'm standing here with Tony Dundas, and Tony, you erected this homemade sign on your lawn saying, "Shelley, get a real job." This is about former councillor Shelley Carroll. First of all, Tony, tell us, what does that sign mean?
Well, as you are aware, or should be aware, Shelley resigned, ran for the Liberal Party and lost, walked away with somewhere, I believe, in the area of $120,000 severance, and now she's running again for council, which to me, I'm just not real happy with that. This is my way of protesting what she did.
Got you. And we live in a country where ostensibly we have freedom of speech. This is private property. This is your house. You put up this sign. And then one day somebody came knocking at the door. And what happened, Tony?
Well, I think this whole situation is somewhat smelly. I was not home, so my son answered the door. And my neighbor across the street confirmed, and this neighbor here confirmed what happened. A City of Toronto truck pulled up in front of the house. The gentleman in the car sat there for about 20 minutes. He came to the door, looked through our front window, knocked on the window, and then my son came to the door. He did not identify himself, he did not show any credentials, and he did not leave me any paperwork. He simply said, "You have to take down your sign because it violates the code. It's considered third-party advertising." And he said, either we take it down or you take it down.
Yeah, indeed. Bylaw has confirmed that they received one complaint. They never say who it's from. Any ideas who it might be from, Tony?
I don't want to speculate because that would be totally unreal. But I think my son told me this guy looked like he worked in the Parks Department, not as a bylaw officer. Okay. He was wearing a green vest, which most outside workers wear, and that's all I can say about it, really. Without, I'm not going to leap to conclusions. I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything, but to me, it doesn't pass the smell test.
Now, believe it or not, according to the city, this indeed runs afoul of the, I guess, the Elections Act. They say the ostensible purpose of not allowing signs like this to go up, they don't want any kind of third parties to unduly influence an election. Are you buying that, Tony?
No, absolutely not. This has nothing to do with the election. This is my protest sign. I have the right to protest. I have the right to say what I want as long as I'm not preaching violence or anything. This preaches nothing. And I'll tell you an interesting story. My cousin lives 4 doors up. He drives by here constantly. I talked to him today. He was not even aware of the smaller printing. He just saw Shelley. He didn't read anything more. And as you can see, there's probably about 30 homes that would drive by this sign. We live on a very quiet street. Yes. So why are we making an issue, and who is making the issue? I find it hard to believe that the city would send a bylaw officer here with no paperwork, with nothing to inform me of my rights as to you must take it down or here's the ticket. Absolutely nothing.
And speaking of tickets, you face a potential fine of $200, I understand. Should it go to the court level, that could escalate to a maximum fine of $5,000. Are you going to cave? Are you going to take that sign down, Tony?
I will not take it down, and I am prepared to go. I'm going to look for a pro bono lawyer. I'm prepared to go to court about this, and I'm prepared to launch a case with the Ontario Human Rights Commission, because these people this is a protest sign. I wish they would get it through their head. It's nothing to do with vote for or don't vote for.
And Tony, what I think is perversely ironic about this is that you must be having a great belly laugh about this. Here we are on a very quiet little crescent in North Toronto. Maybe in the days to come, a couple of dozen would have seen this sign. Now you're getting newspaper coverage, radio interviews. Here we are out here. So basically what I'm saying is this sign is getting exponential exposure if whoever the complainer was just shrugged and minded their own business.
Absolutely. And that's what I don't get. I'm just a quiet guy, family, raising kids, looking after my dad. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of this explosion. And, I've been getting calls all day today. And, one thing I have to say, I looked at the comments that were posted on the Sun, and I laughed my ass off. I think I've struck a nerve with a lot of people who are disgruntled with politicians. And I'm not a fan of politicians of all creeds. I think most of them should not be here.
And also, the speed in which the city has responded to this sign is something else. I understand this area, you have some serious issues from flooding to traffic congestion to potholes to crime. And that seems to be on the back burner. But this little red and white sign, well, we better get the Batmobile dispatched.
Well, I know what you're saying, and I just don't understand it. As I said, it was a quiet little protest now that has exploded. Today, believe it or not, somebody that lives about a mile away found my house, knocked on the front door, and said, "I want to shake your hand."
Wow.
And as I said, I think I've struck a nerve. And, if I can just say one thing, I love what Rob Ford did about cutting council. He should have gone one step further. 2-year term limit, and you're gone, and you can never come back. If you want to be a lobbyist, you have to wait 5 years before you can be a lobbyist with the city. And if you want to work for the city, you wait another 5 years.
But of course, Shelley Carroll is the definition of a career politician. She's been at the game for so long. And that's another point of contention with you, isn't it, Tony, that her signage, her official election sign, which says re-elect, yet she stepped down. She didn't have a council seat because she went to run for the Liberal Party for Ontario. And you feel that is somewhat misleading.
Well, I think it gives her an unfair advantage. Half of the people never voted for Shelley Carroll in this new riding. Never voted for her because it was a different ward. Everybody else is playing on one field that says elected, and she says re-elected. And I would suggest she get her little minions and her workers, get a couple of rolls of duct tape and cover up the re, and make it fair.
Hey, what about calling the signage police on Shelley Carroll?
Well, apparently her opponents, I've phoned a couple of them and said, "Are you aware of this?" And apparently it has happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see. Well, we're just days away from October 22nd. That's the big date. I wonder if she stands a chance of getting elected in this riding. In the meantime, Tony, you are, I think you said earlier, you are not taking this sign down. You will fight it all the way. What do you think the city's next move will be?
I think if Mayor Tory was smart, he'd just leave this alone.
Okay.
And just leave it alone. None of my neighbors came. This gentleman here came over and he read the sign and he hugged me. I've struck a nerve. People are sick and tired of the crap that goes on downtown.
And now the crap downtown is coming right up here, uptown to your own private property. And I guess you're saying enough is enough. This is where you draw the line.
Well, absolutely. I grew up in the 60s. We protested. We fought not to label people, not to humiliate people. And what's happening now? You speak out, you're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're an Islamophobe. You cannot say anything today without being, by the left, I might add, labeled. And if there is a problem in this country, it's the left.
And apparently you can't say, Shelley, get a real job. Well,
Absolutely.
Tony, good luck and keep fighting for freedom of speech, my friend.
I will do that. And nice to meet you, David.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Great. Well, we reached out to the Shelley Carroll campaign. In fact, we're standing right now in front of the Shelley Carroll campaign office. Nobody was available to come on camera and explain their side of the story. But as you can see, lots of Shelley Carroll signs. There's also a sign there for Dr. Saham Rayal for school trustee. I guess Shelley Carroll's endorsing her. There's also a copy of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the window. I don't know why. But speaking of signage, I just find it a little odd that this campaign headquarters, it's the former home of a massage parlor, Young Sensation Wellness Spa. I mean, why wouldn't you cover that up with your own election signs? In any event, as the days tick on to October 22nd, only time will tell in terms of who will win the election in all of Toronto's now 25 wards, and indeed, if Shelley Carroll will receive a happy ending. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, if you like the kind of journalism you get here at the Rebel.media, the kind of journalism you aren't going to get anywhere else, please like and subscribe.